What is up, guys? This is Orca Flop, and today I'm coming at you with another video. And today I'm going to be reviewing the 2018 NRA Bass Pro Shops Night Race at Bristol for the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. And it was a good race, very good race, to say the least. But there's a lot of things I got to talk about it. So let's review it. Race starts out in stage one. You got Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson starting up front. Paul Menard starts to work his way up towards Kyle Larson, get up to second, and pretty much contend with Larson. But before that happens, the most hyped guy in the field, Kyle Busch, gets loose under Ryan Blaney, and because the PJ1 was so slick, he ends up getting loose and causing a big pileup on the front stretch. And a lot of people thought, including myself, thought that Kyle Busch would be done, but no. He was still considered the fastest car on the track, and he was able to rally his way back up to second at one point, and I'll get to him later, okay? Bubba Wallace wrecked out. He was one of my underdog picks. Yeah, believe it or not. If you watch the Smoke Show 14, if you watch his live streams, you'll know I picked Bubba as one of my dark horses. But other than that, Casey Kane was in that, but he didn't have too much damage. He was still in the race. There was a lot of other underfunded teams that got a lot of damage. Sorry, my eye was itchy. Some of them were out, some of them were still in, depending on which one it was. So, I believe one of the Starcom cars was out. I forgot who it was. I think it was Landon Castle. I don't exactly remember. I think DiBenedetto was in it. Denny Hamlin got some front damage. Logano got rear damage. And Kurt Busch, who I'll get to later, got front damage. So, yeah, some notable contenders that were in that wreck and some that weren't. So as we go back green for stage one, Paul Menard blows a right front, and I think his axle failed at the same time. He was trying to get down to pit road, and there were sparks everywhere. I was sure they were going to bring out a caution considering how slow he was going. But they ended up keeping it green, and he ended up going into pit road, and he was done after the day as he wouldn't complete the crash clock. I really wonder how Paul Menard would have performed had he still been in the race. Because, Paul Menard seems like he had a really good car for the majority of the race. So, he was up there contending with Larson for the lead in the very early on. And he was down in the PJ1, which I'll talk about later as well. He had a lot of potential, and I just think, he really got the chance to show it here at Bristol. So, that sucks for Paul Menard. As we go back green for stage one, Ryan Blaney and Kevin Harvick start rallying their way up to the front. Kevin Harvick and Ryan Blaney start battling as Ricky Stenhouse Jr. had a flat tire in the middle of stage one. And, his hopes and dreams would kind of be crushed there since he was never able to come back from that. So Kevin Harvick and Ryan Blaney are battling through lap traffic in stage one. And they end up having one of the closest finishes in a stage, and Ryan Blaney ends up winning stage one over Kevin Harvick with a photo finish. Holy crap, that was awesome. I believe it was 0.003 of a second. That was really close. I thought Kevin Harvick got it because I was getting pretty mad. I didn't want to see any of the big three except Truex win. So it was cool for Blaney to win that stage. He needs those stage points, and he's already locked into the playoffs now on points, so that's pretty cool. Sorry, my finger got itchy. So we go green for stage two. Blaney and Harvick up front. Harvick ends up having a problem. I don't know what it was, and I still don't know what it will be. Because, his race was pretty much killed from there on out. So Harvick never really got a chance to shine after that, which kind of sucks, to be honest with you. Because I wanted to see maybe what he would do. Even though I didn't want to see him win the race, I just kind of wanted to see if he had the speed that his other Stewart Haas teammates had, like Almirola, Boyer, or Kurt Busch, I kind of wanted to see where he placed between those four. So, interesting with Kevin Harvick. He was never going to get the 90 he wanted after that. So, Ryan Blaney was still in the lead. Chase Elliott was second, and I believe Logano was in the back, but he was making his way up front. And then a caution came out for, I believe, what was that caution for? I think it was David Reagan spinning out, if I'm not mistaken. And So they all go into pit road, and Joey Logano ends up getting a phenomenal pit stop, and so does Chase Elliott. And Logano and Chase Elliott are 1-2, and then you got Blaney and Eric Jones in the back there. And then you had Almirola and Clint Boyer. Clint Boyer was working his way up through the field the majority of the night, and so was Kurt Busch. And Kurt Busch was one of those who got in that first big one. So we go green for the rest of stage 2, and it's basically pretty much a battle between Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick for the free pass, and Logano and Chase Elliott for the stage win in the lead. So Chase Elliott and Logano were battling for the stage win. Chase Elliott tried all he could, but Logano got that run off the high side and ended up winning stage 2. Chase Elliott got second, and that's just how it is. And Kyle Busch ended up getting the free pass, so that meant Kyle Busch was back on the lead lap and could try, with that damaged car without the bumper, could try to rally his way back up and go for a win. Now, that thought of having a damaged race car and a big one in the first 2 laps, that thought just shows maybe how much either Kyle Busch knows how to drive Bristol, or how good that car was, or how legal that car was, according to some people. But, Kyle Busch was able to rally his way back up, and he's gotten the free pass. He's now back on the lead lap. We go green for stage 3. Logano and Chase Elliott are up front. Chase Elliott ends up doing a slide job on Logano. Clint Boyer ends up going up to third, and I believe Eric Almirola had a fluid issue as well. And he was leaking fluid all over the track, but no one really slipped on it, but you could see it. It was on the track. So Almirola ended up getting black flagged, going down to pit road, and he ended up having to get out of the race because it could not be fixed, and he didn't, complete it within the crash clock time. So that really sucked for Almirola. He was one of the top Stewart-Haas cars that was driving last night. And yes, I'm making this in the morning because I did not want to make it last night because I was really tired. So here you are now. Let's see. What else happened? Clint Boyer rallied his way up to third. He ended up getting by Chase Elliott. He stayed in third. And the caution came out because the 51 of, I think it was Ross Chastain. I don't know. I don't like these. I don't know these small teams very well. But the 51 hit the wall shortly after Almirola got black flagged, and that caused a caution. And Truex had a phenomenal pit stop, and it was able to rally up to second place from that pit stop. Now, that is crazy, because Truex was a 15th to 20th place car all night, and before the caution came out, Truex was able to get up to 8th for somehow. And, I expect my boy Truex to be, up to second through pit stops. But he had a great pit stop. He went up to second. Clint Boyer got a good pit stop. He went up to first. Kurt Busch was up there as well. Everyone got good pit stops. Because as everyone was braking to try to get on the outside line, Kurt Busch just kind of went along, and he gained a lot of spots. So it was Kurt Busch, Clint Boyer, and Truex that were up front, and then you had Chase Elliott in fourth, and you had Chase Elliott in third, Logano in fourth, and then Kurt Busch in fifth. So yeah, that's how it kind of went. So we go green. Clint Boyer gets a good restart. Truex is down to second. Chase Elliott is in third. Logano is in fourth. Truex is trying to get by Clint Boyer, trying to maybe give him the bumper on the high side, but that's really hard to do considering the track surface is so rough up there. Truex couldn't get enough room, especially with lap traffic coming in the way. Truex couldn't get that opportunity to give Clint Boyer the bump and run, but I think he did twice, and he didn't do it because Truex, obviously, we all know he's a clean driver. He doesn't really like to give the bump and run to many drivers. So Truex decided, let Boyer go easy on Boyer and not try to move him out of the way and actually pass him cleanly for the lead. So that's what Truex's goal was, and I think it didn't live up to it, sadly, because eventually Kyle Busch, of all people, the one with the damaged car, the one that's been coming back from 2 laps the entire race, the one who has absolutely driven to the front, has passed Chase Elliott for third, and he's coming up to Truex for second. And then this motherfucker does this. Truex gets a run off the high side. Kyle Busch slips up, even though he said he wasn't sure if he was clear or not. If you're not sure you were clear, then you should have just held the bottom. But no, this motherfucker slides up, dumps Truex. Truex goes up and hits JJ Yaley, gets a hard hit with him and Yaley, and fucking Truex is out. And just like Truex, I was pissed and I was raging. Now, the reason I am pissed off is because Truex probably could have gotten a lucky top 5, or at least stayed and held his track position in second, and Kyle Busch had a lot more time. It was like 69 to go, or 68 to go, somewhere around there. Kyle Busch had so much time to get by Truex and catch Clint Bowyer, which is why I am so baffled by why Kyle Busch decided to dump him. But I know it wasn't intentional, okay? I know Kyle Busch didn't mean to wreck him, but at the same time, it's like, fucking Christ, man. Can you just hold the bottom if you don't know you're clear at Bristol? This is Bristol. You know it's close contact. You know there's lap traffic around the track. And you know that if you're not sure you're clear, you probably should back off. And I'll get to a later little incident with Eric Jones and Kurt Busch, and I'll compare the two. So, Kyle Busch fucking dumps Truex. Thanks a fucking lot, asshole. Truex probably could have gotten a top 5 or even a top 10 at most. But no, fucking Kyle Busch has to, as Kamikaze said, shove a wheel iron up his ass. So, that well deserved. Well said. Fuck you, Kyle Busch. Thanks a lot for wrecking Truex and fucking him out of it, and fucking your satellite teammate out of a top 5 or a top 10. Thanks a fucking lot, Kyle Busch. I still am pissed off about that because Truex, he probably could have gotten a lucky top 5 or top 10. That would have been good on his resume for short tracks. And Truex is my boy Truex. He's still trying to get that first short track win. He's still trying to, and of course he gets fucked over. Fucked over again, of course. And, yeah, like Kamikaze compared to, Truex raced your ass clean at Martinsville last year in the fall race. Why couldn't you have done the same thing, you know? I understand it was like by such a short margin, and Kyle Busch, it was unintentional. But at the same fucking time, if you know you're not clear, you should just hold the bottom and not be an asshole and slide up and take that chance of dumping him or getting cleared. So, fuck you, Kyle Busch. I'll get to him more later as well. At this point, I was really cheering for Clint Bowyer for the rest of the race. And we go green again. Kyle Busch, I think he got a bad pit stop. It was like 22-second pit stop. And it was Bowyer and Kurt Busch that were starting up front. We go green. Brad Keselowski ends up spinning out. And that causes another caution. We go green again. It is Kurt Busch, Clint Bowyer, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, and Eric Jones. And then Kyle Busch is behind there. We go green. Actually, after Brad Keselowski spun out, there was some different strategy taking place. Guys like Hamlin and Austin Dillon would take 2 tires. Bowyer and Kurt Busch stayed out and were on old tires. Guys like Larson, Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch, they would go into pit and get fresh new tires so they could try to rally their way back up. Ultimately, it didn't work out for any of those guys that took the 4 tires. And then you had guys like Chris Buescher and Jimmy Johnson that were going to restart up front. We go green. Kyle Busch gets sandwiched on the outside by Chris Buescher and Jimmy Johnson. He ends up cutting a left rear, and yes, he spun out. I was so happy to see that because that means Kyle Busch was screwed out of a good finish, just like Truex was. So karma bit him in the ass. I'm really happy he spun out because that made me feel better considering I know that karma took place with him. And as you saw the crowd's reaction, they loved it. I loved it. Everyone loved it. So fuck you, Kyle Busch. Glad that left rear did not last long, and thank you for spinning out and causing another caution. I appreciate that. So we go green again. Clint Bowyer and Kurt Busch starting up front. Larson gets a phenomenal restart, passes Clint Bowyer. Kurt Busch is holding to the front, and Kurt Busch manages to hold off Kyle Larson and win for the first time this season and win and lock himself in the playoffs. Kurt Busch wins at Bristol. Kurt Busch, he hasn't won since the Daytona 500 in 2017. I felt really happy for him considering Kurt Busch, he was one of the few as well who rallied himself back from that incident in lap 2. And he had damage on the front and he had tape all over. So Kurt Busch ended up winning the Bristol night race on a key restart. And those older tires ended up prevailing for him. Considering Larson had a not that great of a car all around today. I don't know why. But I think if Chase Elliott was second, maybe Chase Elliott could have ran down Kurt Busch. I'm not for sure. But either way, Kurt Busch still won the race. And, Kurt Busch, we all know he's had a lot of success at Bristol in the past. Even in 2004 when he won his first championship. So, congrats to Kurt Busch on getting your first win of the season. We got a new winner. 3 of the Stewart-Haas cars are now locked into the playoffs. And Kurt Busch is the winner of the Bristol night race, and for a fair reason. So, you look at the finishers, Larson second, Chase Elliott third, Clint Boyer fourth, and I think Eric Jones fifth, I believe. So, that's your top 5. And ultimately, the guy who deserved one, Kurt Busch, got the key restarts when he needed to. He rallied his way back up. Kurt Busch, he ran the right lines as well. He ran the high side the majority of the time. And speaking of the high side and the low side, it seems like on maybe restarts, the PJ1 was worth it because it would cool down a bit and become more grippier. But as the runs went on, the PJ1 became more slick, so it'd be harder to, get big momentum off the low side. And I think the high side, because there was rubber built on the high side, you could get a better run getting off the high side considering there was more grip developing on the high side. So, the high side seemed like the way to go for the majority of the race. Unlike the spring race where it was pretty much just the low side. It was like old school Bristol. Personally, I like new school Bristol better considering you're able to battle on the high side and the low side. Considering now with the PJ1, it makes it even with the high side. So, I like new Bristol better in my opinion because, like Eric Estep said in his review, you don't always have to move someone out of the way. Just pass them cleanly on the high side and low side, Nothing wrong with that. So, congrats to Kurt Busch on winning. Kyle Busch had probably one of the craziest comebacks I've ever seen. And also one of the most dickbag moves I've ever seen. And here is what makes me rage the most. People saw that, Sherry Polex, obviously Truex's girlfriend, she tweeted that Kyle Busch is a moron. I love that. The fact that people look at this incident with Truex and Kyle Busch and they don't take it seriously. Because the guy who was wrecked, that's why they don't take it seriously. If that was Chase Elliott that got dumped, or that was Kyle Larson that got dumped, you already know everyone would be, fucking cussing out Kyle Busch right now. And I think the only people who really understood were the people in the stands. Because I feel like now maybe Hamlin got some undeserved hate. Because if Hamlin, I think maybe if he dumped anyone else, would he still get the same hate? Or was it just because it was Chase Elliott that got dumped? I think the fans don't realize that getting dumped in general is a pussy is this worst way to get taken out of a race. Whether it be, even if it was Kyle Busch dumping Denny Hamlin, I'd be shocked because, Denny Hamlin, that would suck for him, wouldn't it? It sucks for anyone to get dumped and taken out of a race like that. So, I feel like maybe it's more biased towards Chase Elliott when he was dumped in Martinsville 2017 than it is towards Truex in 2018 at Bristol because Truex is part of the big 3. He's got, 5 wins this season, I think? 5 wins. I think that's, 5. People see Truex as, he doesn't need to get any better finishes. Well, Truex is trying to win his first short track race, and, he's been trying to do that since he started his Cup career in 2006. So, it's hard for Truex and hard for us fans when we see him get dumped like that and screwed out of a possible at least top 5. I just feel like maybe it's a bit more biased when someone else gets dumped because I don't think people realize enough how much, getting wrecked out of a race, how bad it is and how much of a pussy-ass coward move it is to do. And I'm still pissed about that fact that, hey, Truex could have gotten a top 10 at least. So, fuck you, Kyle Busch, still. I still fucking hate Kyle Busch, and I always will. Fuck you. And I give this race, personally, a 9.5 out of 10. It would have been a 10 out of 10 for me hadn't Truex gotten dumped, because I'm biased. If Truex didn't get dumped by Kyle Busch and he at least got a top 10, this race would be a 10 out of 10. For me, it was good. The high side and the low side kind of went with 2 and 2 together. Except the high side, I think, had more of a benefit in longer runs, and the PJ1 on the bottom had more of a benefit on the short runs and the restarts because you'd have that grip as it cooled down a little bit. So, ultimately, it was a good race. Don't get me wrong. Fuck you, Kyle Busch. Fuck you, Kyle Busch. Fuck you, Kyle Busch. Thank you for at least apologizing in your interview, though. Thanks for that, at least. You did something right in your life. But to me, you're still a smug baby who can't get over stuff. So, Radioactive should be interesting for this week. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Race gets a 9.5 out of 10. Fuck you, Kyle Busch. Congrats, Kurt Busch. Bye.